Hi, fifth graders. Welcome to lesson 11.4, three-dimensional figures. This lesson can be found in our textbooks on page 655. The standard that we are working with today is in Measurement and Data 5.3, and we're just looking at the first part of the standard where I can recognize volume as an attribute of solid figures. So today we are going to be talking about our three-dimensional figures, which are the solid figures. Our essential question is asking, how can you identify, describe, and classify three-dimensional figures? So, starting out under Unlock the Problem, a solid figure has three dimensions. We have length, width, and height for all of our solid figures. Polyhedrons, such as prisms and pyramids. So in our lesson today, we're just looking at the polyhedrons that are prisms and pyramids. There are three-dimensional figures that have faces that are all polygons. So a prism is a polyhedron that has two congruent polygons as bases. And a polyhedron's lateral faces are polygons that connect with the bases. So the lateral faces of all prisms, no matter the shape of the base, will always be rectangles. So our very first prism that we see is a triangular prism. That is because the base, and there are two of them, are triangles. Remember, all bases have two all prisms have two bases, and those names come from the base shape. So because my base shape is a triangle, it is a triangular prism. And the polygons that connect those two triangles, which are called the lateral faces, those are always going to be rectangles. So the very first prism that we are talking about is the triangular prism. Again, two triangle bases and then three rectangular lateral faces. So going down, talking about other prisms, we have to identify the base shape before we can then name the solid figure. So the first shape, the base shape is in like a light green in your textbooks, but almost yellow looking on the video. The base shape, those green areas are both rectangles. So my base shape, I would write rectangles. Now, to name the solid figure, notice off to the right in the purple box, we have types of prisms. If you have a base shape that is a rectangle, you would see in the purple box that it is called a rectangular prism. You do need to make sure that you have the word prism because it does identify whether it's a prism or a pyramid. Moving on, the next polygon that we are looking off to the right of the rectangular prism, we do see that the polygon does have 5 sides. So if it has 5 sides, the base shape is a pentagon. So if my base shape is a pentagon, that means it is a pentagonal prism. Moving down, the next base shape I see, that polygon does have 6 sides. A 6-sided polygon is a hexagon. So the prism name is hexagonal prism. And finally, the last prism that we are going to talk about. Notice if you count up all of the sides of the bases, you have 8 sides, which does make it an octagon. So the prism name is octagonal prism. So now these are all prisms. So they are all 3D or three-dimensional shapes. That is a little different than we were working when we were working with just polygons. Those two-dimensional figures that we were talking about with our polygons from lesson 11.1, those only have 2 dimensions, and that's why they're two-dimensional figures, which is a length and a width. Remember, the 2 dimensions are used to find area. Our 3-dimensional figures, that is like filling up that either prism or pyramid, and you have 3 dimensions, which is your length, your width, and your height, which is stated up here under Unlock the Problem. And that we are going to use starting in 11.5, where we are finding volume. So this lesson is just preparing us for our volume lesson in 11.5. So down at the bullet point, it says, what special prism has congruent squares for bases and lateral faces? So that means every side of our prism is a square. And if you have every side that is a square for your bases plus your lateral faces, that means you are working with a cube. Moving on to the next page. Our next type of polyhedron is a pyramid. So a pyramid is a polyhedron that has only one base, and that base is always on the bottom. The lateral faces of your pyramid are always triangles that meet at a common vertex. So that's that point that it meets up at the top. Like a prism, a pyramid is named for the shape of its base. So we are going to identify all of the base shapes to then name those pyramids. So the base shape is in purple this time. Again, notice our first pyramid has a base shape that is a triangle. Because that triangle does have only 3 sides, that means there are 3 lateral faces that are also in the shape of triangles that form up at the point at the very top called your vertex. So the solid figure that we have right here is a triangular pyramid. Moving on, the next base, because you cannot always tell for sure without measuring if it's a square or a rectangle, either name would be appropriate for this pyramid. You could say rectangle for your base shape, because we do know that all rectangles, or all squares are rectangles, or you could say square. Now, when you go to name it, it is a lot easier if you would use the word rectangle and then call it a rectangular pyramid. And the last pyramid that we are going to identify right here, notice it does have 5 sides for that base shape. A 5-sided polygon is a pentagon. So this pyramid name would be pentagonal pyramid. So those are the 2 types of polyhedrons we're going to be discussing in this lesson. Next, I have 3 non-polyhedrons. So some 3-dimensional figures have curved surfaces. If it has a curved surface, it is not a polyhedron. Remember, a polyhedron has all polygons for every single face, whether it's the base or the lateral faces. So my first non-polyhedron is a cone. It does have 1 circular base and then 1 curved surface. You do see that that curved surface does meet up at a vertex. However, it's still not a polyhedron. My next non-polyhedron is a cylinder. The cylinder has 2 circular bases and 1 curved surface. And then finally you have your sphere, which obviously it's like a ball, and they have no bases and it's one large curved surface. So for the share and show, numbers 1 through 3, they just want to identify if it's a prism, pyramid, cone, cylinder, or sphere. I don't have to have the full name of it. I just need to know what type of solid figure it is. So notice for number 1, I have 2 bases that then are connected by 3 lateral faces. So because there are 2 bases, it is a prism. If you wanted to go into it even more, you would say it would be a triangular prism. Number 2, obviously this looks like it would be a ball. We call all balls spheres in this lesson. Number 3, notice it has 1 base and it does meet up with its triangular lateral faces at a vertex. So this is a pyramid. Next, for 4 through 6, we actually have to give the entire name of the solid figure based upon the base shape. So for number 4, I do see that there are 5 sides to my polygon. So a 5-sided polygon is a pentagon. So I would say pentagonal. And it does have 2 bases, one at top and then one at the bottom. So it would be a prism. Number 5, again, the base shape we see has 5 sides. So it is a pentagon again, so pentagonal. But this time it only has 1 base and those triangular faces meet up at that point, the vertex, so it is a pyramid. And finally, number 6, this does have 2 circular bases with 1 curved surface going around, so it is a cylinder. Moving on to the next page. On your own, try to classify 7 through 12. Remember, 7, 8, and 9, you just need to give the basic classification. And then 10, 11, 12, give the actual name. So number 7, you do have a prism, has 2 bases. Number 8 is a cylinder. And number 9 is a cone. Then the names of 10, 11, and 12, I have a triangular pyramid. Number 11 is a rectangular prism. And number 12 is triangular prism. Now do the same for 13, 14, and 15. So number 13, I do have 6 sides for my polygon, so it is a hexagonal prism, 2 bases. Number 14, I can give 2 different names. I am going to call this a rectangle as my base, so rectangular pyramid, has only 1 base. And number 15, if I counted all of those sides of my polygon, I do see that there are 8 of them. So octagonal or octagonal. Oops, that's an O, sorry. And then this is a prism. Now number 16, it says Mario is making a sculpture out of stone. He starts by carving a base with 5 sides. Then he carves 5 triangular lateral faces that all meet at a point at the top. What 3-dimensional figure does Mario make? Well, I know if it has a polygon that has 5 sides, it's a pentagon. So pentagonal. And then it has triangular lateral faces. So the only solid figure that has triangles for all of the lateral faces is a pyramid. I'm not going to write the explanation for number 17. We're just going to talk about it. What is another name for a cube? Well, a cube does have square bases and square lateral faces, which we know all squares are also rectangles. So you could say that it is a rectangular prism. And then moving on. Question number 19, you do have a test question that is very similar to this. So for number 19, write the letter in the box that correctly describes the 3-dimensional figure. Well, A, I see, has 2 bases with rectangular lateral faces, so that is a prism. B, I see there is only 1 base, and it meets up at a point called a vertex with triangular lateral faces, so that is a pyramid. C, again, there are 2 bases with rectangular lateral faces, so that is a prism. And then D has 1 triangular base with 3 triangular lateral faces that meet up at the vertex, so that is a pyramid. So now your homework. Notice for the front on 2 and 3, it's just the most basic classification. This is drag and drop on Schoology. Both of them are on the same question. Then for 4 through 9, you have to, again, drag and drop all on the same page the actual name of the solid figure. Then for number 10, it says she drew a square pyramid and that all of the faces are triangles, the base and all of the faces. Is this possible? Explain. Well, this is drop-down boxes where a couple sentences are written and you have to fill in the correct words. And then number 11, explain why a 3-dimensional figure with a curved surface is not a polyhedron. Again, there's a couple of sentences written that you are going to drop down the boxes to fill in the correct missing words. On the back, number 1, Luke made a model of a solid figure with 1 circular base and 1 curved surface. What solid figure did he make? So you are naming the solid figure. Number 2, how many rectangular faces does a hexagonal pyramid have? So notice the base is a hexagon, but pyramids, how many rectangular faces does a pyramid have if it's a hexagonal pyramid? Number 3, Laura walks 3/5 miles to school every day. Isaiah's walk to school is 3 times as long as Laura's. How far does Isaiah walk to school each day? So my key word is times. I'm going to take 3/5 times 3. Remember that 3 is 3 over 1. Make sure your answer is in simplest form as a mixed number. Number 4, James has 4 3/4 feet of rope. He plans to cut off 1 1/2 feet from the rope. How much rope will be left? So leftover or will be left tells me that I'm subtracting. Before you subtract, make sure you have your common denominator set up so that way you would then subtract by the same exact denominators. For question number 5, Latasha made 128 ounces of punch. How many cups of punch did Latasha make? So you are converting 128 fluid ounces into cups. Remember, 1 cup equals 8 fluid ounces. This is fly to horse, so you will divide, of course. And number 6, complete the following statement, and it will be select for drop down, sometimes, always, or never. Trapezoids, are they always, sometimes, or never parallelograms? Please let us know if you have any questions. Thanks.